Welcome back. New York City is home to over 80 New York public libraries, and in the South Bronx, several historic library branches are undergoing extensive renovations. These changes represent a significant investment in long term service for the community. Joining us for discussion on the impact libraries have in our borough of the Bronx and beyond is interim Bronx Borough Director Kathleen Carrasco. Kathleen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on the show today.
So, as I mentioned, people in the Bronx will see some changes coming to their local libraries. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So we're excited we have the Hunts Point and the Melrose branch in the South Bronx communities who are currently undergoing extensive renovations. So this also represents a significant investment by the library in the South Bronx communities. Mount Haven has been also undergoing renovations and will be reopening early next year. So the Melrose branch will be receiving a brand new third floor, which was lost a few years ago in a fire. Hunts Point branch will be repurposing a custodial apartment that it currently houses to hold a new HVAC system. So both branches will receive accessibility upgrades, including a fully accessible entrance at Melrose and a new ramp for the Hunts Point location. Also, in addition to that, a new elevator at both locations, designated designated reading areas for kids, teens, and adults, as well as community rooms for programming. So these upgrades to the HVAC, plumbing, and electrical systems, which also wouldn't be including new stairs, flooring, and lighting. So these will be beautiful spaces that the community will definitely be well to enjoy.
And can you tell us how did this initiative to transform these branches begin?
So this was a part back a few years ago of the city reinvesting and adding a 10-year capital plan for library branches, and then the library coming up with a plan as to also the improvement and the reinvestment and the passion that we need to get back into the communities to make sure that we have buildings that are equipped to continue to be these pillars in these communities, especially for our South Bronx branches that at that point, we do have locations that need a lot of improvement.
Now, I understand these changes received a lot of support from elected leaders like Councilmember Rafael Salamanca and Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. What does support from local elected officials mean to libraries in the Bronx?
It's wonderful to have the support of the local elected officials, several including our Bronx Borough President, Ruben Diaz Jr., and our City Council member, Rafael Salamanca Jr. They also use the local libraries when they were kids and teens. So it clearly have made an impact on them because they have shown a lot of support throughout the years. And in order to keep the programming our patrons have come to expect, we need our elected officials to continue advocating for us to maintain the funding to keep these programs going.
That's wonderful. So, the branches that are receiving upgrades are remembered as historic branches. Can you just tell us some of the legacies these libraries hold?
So the Melrose branch has been open to the public since 1914 and the Hunts Point since 1929. So Melrose has been a part of the community for over 100 years, and the Hunts Point has served their community for close to 100 years. So both branches have adapted to the needs of the patrons during that time. And as the residents change over time, we try to include books and programs that are of interest to them. But we also offer back to school programming and tutoring for neighborhood kids. And then since the pandemic, we had to change our entire model and go online with virtual programming and classes so we can continue serving our patrons.
Now, I understand these branches will not only receive more space for community members, but like you mentioned previously, they will have building upgrades like a new HVAC system for heating and cooling the building. Can you explain why this was an important feature to add?
It was an absolutely vital feature to add, to definitely have functioning HVAC system in our spaces, not just for our patrons, but also for our staff. So during the summer months, a lot of our branches with operating HVAC systems are used as cooling centers where anyone, whether you have a library card or not, can just stop in to get out of the heat, and come in and read a book if they want to, use the computers. But it's also critical that our branches also are able to meet this need on a continuous basis. So, as winter is upon us, we want to make sure that the branches are also important just to be keeping warm as well. And with the branches getting back to indoor activities, including back to school programs and a cold library, really distracts them from doing what they're there to do.
Okay, I think that's amazing. And when I learned that, I was like, oh, wow, that's like really important. And I'm really happy to
Yeah.
see that. So, as a society, we're talking more about inclusivity. So, I want to touch on the fact that these branch upgrades will include accessibility features. You kind of mentioned that a little bit before as well. Can you tell us more about that decision to just include people from all walks of life?
So part of this was definitely part of our Building for You campaign that we have launched several years ago, which incorporated recommendations from patrons, feedback from the community through a public survey, and also listening to our own, branch staff as well and leadership. And these recommendations certainly played a role in these decisions. So the library, in order to be truly open to everyone, we want to make sure that it's easy as possible for those with special needs to come in to our branches with ease and visibility. Whether it's the ramps to enter to the branch or other improvements, we want to make our branches as accessible as possible to everyone.
So the renovations of the Melrose and Hunts Point branches are also part of historic funding for $100 million provided by the city to update and modernize these libraries. Can you explain the importance of investing in the New York Public Library?
I think just investing in libraries is ideal and very important. For many, the libraries are a refuge, or the libraries are that second place besides the home and the school where you want to come to and congregate and use the resources. So patrons come to use our computers, take English as a second language class to become U.S. citizens by taking some of our study groups and some of our courses that we able to offer. Also for after school tutoring to check out books and for so much more. So patrons, just in functionality deserve, a wonderful building that they're able to come into and have functioning elevators, bathrooms, accessible ramps, heating and cooling systems, and of course, the most updates to the windows and computers and modernizing our branches makes them that much more functional and able to serve our patrons a whole lot better.
Okay, and I love that you mentioned that it could be like a safe space for many children. I agree wholeheartedly, and I've seen it growing up. I grew up in the library as well, so I agree with that 100%. I wanted to further highlight this because the New York Public Library also offers a lot of free, community-oriented, and enriching programs to low-income communities. Can you tell us about any impact you've seen the New York Public Library have on these communities?
So right before the pandemic, we had our after school program, which was very vibrant, and especially in our South Bronx communities, which is that extension for the kids. And one student, highlighted that he was able to pass his classes because he had the support, you know, besides the school in the library. And able to have the one-on-one support that again it was free. And a lot of times, tutoring support services people have to pay for. So library funding helps us to increase those number of classes and programs we're able to host, whether that is the English as second language classes, our resume building, job interview training, job fairs, and most recently, like we're expanding into now the STEAM kits that we're able to give to the kids that maybe before weren't able to have access to them. So that's making a big difference in our communities. And the biggest thing out of all these programs that they're free, right? Or you can just come in. Hopefully, people will sign up for a library card. That's our goal, to get as many people sign up for cards, so that way they can participate in the many of the programs that we offer for free, but also through our databases and that continuous online learning.
Now, one of the most impactful programs you offer is this summer reading program, now under the summer learning program. This was something that I grew up with, so I'm excited to highlight it for many. But for those who don't know, can you tell us more about this?
Sure. So this past summer, we rebranded and said, for our program will be summer learning. So part of this, it's giving away 60,000 kits to kids of all ages from baby through high schoolers. And these kits flew off the shelves. There were tote bags filled with books, activities, Play-Doh, stress balls, and more in them. So the summer learning offered a wide range of activities to support families this summer, including our virtual summer camps, which was a 6-week program that included reading challenges and take home activities. So the purpose of the summer learning program is just to help kids avoid what is called the summer slide, which kids often, don't retain what they learned during the school year and are playing catch up. So we wanted to incorporate like a lot of, fun educational activities so that way it creates a fun learning experience for the kids.
Now, when can community members see and experience these new features that are coming to these branches?
So Monhaven will be hopefully reopening early next year. To our patrons for our Hunts Point and Melrose community, we're able to see these experiences for these new renovated branches in the summer of 2023.
And my next question, which is super important, what can people do to support or continue supporting their local libraries?
Visiting the local libraries. And anyone who's interested can also go to our website, www.nypl.org, where you can find more information about your local branches, programs, and those interested and also in finding out more information of what the library has to offer.
All right, thank you so much. And I just want to add that the library does have a lot to offer. When you were mentioning the free programs, I also did my taxes at the library, and a lot of people don't know that they help you with all of these things. So definitely super important to just get involved with your local library. Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll be right back with more Open BXRX Tuesday.